Hey, hello, you guys. My name is Michael Estique. Joining me today is Richie Miller, Sherry Wart, and Alex Smiley. Welcome to Buffalo Sports Insider. Make sure you guys follow us today on X, YouTube, and Facebook. Sadly, today we have some breaking news. Vontae Davis has sadly passed away. My condolences go out to his family and everyone else that is associated with him. So first from order of business, we got March Madness. Joining me for that section would be Shay Wart. So we got the Final Four: UConn versus Alabama, Purdue versus NC State. Shay, what do you think about UConn versus Alabama? How do you feel about that?
I think that these are two very interesting teams in this tournament. I think that Alabama has an electric offense, like we've been saying. They're number one in the country in points average per game. In their last game against Clemson, they hit 16 threes to Clemson's 8, so they're doubling what Clemson had in the game. I think that Mark Sears is unbelievable in this tournament, had 7 threes against Clemson. I think their offense has been running very smoothly. Grant Nelson has been unbelievable as well. The transfer portal players for Alabama have been stepping up. Teams that usually don't have a great defense usually don't do well in the tournament, but their offense has been unbelievable and has been kind of like overshadowing the fact that their defense struggles. And UConn just needs to be able to contain Alabama and Mark Sears, because if they can't, then it's going to be a very big issue for them, and they need to make sure that they don't get hot. With UConn, they've been very dominant in this tournament. There's nothing much to say. They beat Illinois 77-52. They were blowing them out in the second half, with Illinois being a very impressive team in this tournament. I was very surprised with that. Held Terrence Shannon to 8 points, who's been very good in this tournament, and ended his run. All of their starting lineup averages over 10 points a game, and all 5 of their starting lineup has very good NBA hopes, and they're all NBA prospects right now. And I think that it's going to be a very good game, and I think it's going to be a high-scoring one as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. Tristan Newman, definitely a great scorer for UConn. Donovan Killigan, very good rim protector for UConn as well. Mark Sears, definitely great scorer. This guy can get a bucket at it by all means necessary. Averages 21.5 points a game. Very natural scorer. But now to move over to Purdue and Tennessee. Not Purdue. Purdue and NC State. Got Zach Edey versus Jim Burns. Who do you think will come out on top?
So, I think it's going to be an interesting game. NC State, unbelievable run in their ACC tournament and in the NCAA tournament. There are two notable players that I think are DJ Burns and DJ Horn. DJ Burns coming from Winthrop and DJ Horn coming from Arizona State. They've been their most important players. They've been the two guys that they've looked to in these games when they need wins. I think that the win against Duke was a very, very big statement win, because not only did they beat them now, they beat them in the ACC tournament earlier after losing to them in the regular season as well. I think that they've been an unbelievable team, and they can continue this run if they play their cards right against Purdue. And then looking at Purdue, even though they kind of bore me, the 2023 Naismith Player of the Year, Zach Edey, has been unstoppable and has been the center of their offense. I mean, he dropped 40 against Tennessee. There's not really much anyone else can do. He's 7'4". All they have to do is pretty much get the ball to him, and he's either going to score or go to the line. They hit 3 threes against Tennessee, which could be an issue if they're not shooting the ball well. But they are an unbelievable team, and each of their players plays their role unbelievably well. And they're just really well-oiled, no pun intended. And I think that it's going to be tough to stop them, but NC State does have a chance with the form that they're in. So, you never know.
I mean, to really talk about it, UConn and Purdue, I think these two are going to be at the end and matched up. I just think that UConn might come out with it because they're very, very sound defensively, and they don't really have, I feel, a lot of weak spots. But moving forward, we got women's basketball March Madness. We got Richard Miller going there. See, it's on you.
Yeah, so joining me for women's basketball is going to be Deanna Suchet Soto. Um, I believe she should be here. Yeah.
Oh shoot.
You wouldn't do that. So why do you do this? Distracted driving kills an average of 9 people and injures over 1,000 every day in America. Put down your phone. Lives depend on it. Don't drive intoxicated. Don't drive intoxicated. A sobering message from AAA.
How was school today?
It was good.
Did you play volleyball?
Yes.
How's your serve coming? I think we'll work on it this weekend.
Amy's slumber party is this weekend.
Is your homework done?
No.
That was the deal we made. If you do...
Hi, Lauren. My name is Katie. We're gonna take care of you, okay? Ready?
1, 2, 3. All right, so women's basketball is in a very good spot right now. You have just an all-around superstar in Caitlin Clark, averaging 30 on the year, all-time scoring leader, and she will be facing off in the Elite Eight against the defending national championship, who they played in the national championship last year, the LSU Tigers. This should be a very highly watched game, very highly anticipated game. I was fortunate enough to watch both these teams in the Sweet 16 in Albany in person. So I would just like to start with that game. What are your thoughts on this game, and who do you think is going to win?
I keep going back and forth. I am a big LSU fan. I've always been a big LSU fan since last year. Flaudia Johnson joining, absolute dominant force in this game, with her game high 24 points against UCLA. So I'm gonna have to say LSU's gonna win this. They're gonna take this. They have the depth. They have this. They do need to keep their attitudes in check, but they have that depth, and I think they're gonna be able to pull it out. It's, to me, not LSU versus Iowa. It's LSU versus Caitlin Clark. So.
Yeah, and that's a good way of putting it, because when you really look at these rosters, I feel like LSU has a more complete team. They have a better defense, but the thing that makes Iowa so special really is Caitlin Clark, but it's just the way that their offense could get flowing when Caitlin Clark is used as a facilitator. She had 15 assists in her Sweet 16 game against Colorado, and she was just finding open players all across the floor. She was getting people to where they needed to be. There were just many times where she was double, even triple teamed, and she would just find the open shooter in the corner. She would make clever bounce passes to find the lane. And Iowa's offense, when it clicks, is really good. But LSU has some players. Obviously, Angel Reese, most outstanding player last year. Flaudia Johnson, as you mentioned, 24 points. Anissa Morrow. I think it should be a great game. I think it should be very highly competitive game. But also on the later slot tonight is USC versus UConn, who have two-star players of themselves, Paige Bueckers versus Juju Watkins. Who do you see winning this game?
I see USC pulling this out. I'm a big fan. I think she has it. I think her being in the spot where she's been there before is something that could be possible, but I don't know. I feel like USC really has that depth, and it has Juju Watkins. I mean, look at her, 30 points. That's, to me, as a person who's just recently gotten into basketball, she has the second most points in a freshman season. She's a freshman, and averaging out that many points, 27 points, I believe, for the whole entire season. She's a beast, and I don't think, unfortunately,
Paige is going to be able to stop her.
Yeah, and it's very important to mention Paige Bucker's upperclassman versus Juju Watkins freshman, but she does not play like a freshman. She's very composed out there. Some people may say she's not the most efficient, but I think she's just a bucket. Like she could really find her shot and just get it going. To be able to lead her team to an Elite Eight as a freshman is incredibly impressive.
She's very humble about
She's
it
very
as well.
humble about it as well too. And then the winners of these games will face off in the Final Four, and the first two teams in the Final Four, South Carolina and NC State, have already been decided. But I would just like to kick it off to the rest of the panel. What are your opinions on these upcoming games tonight?
I think I got LSU versus Iowa. I think Angela Reese is definitely a force to be reckoned with down low. And for the USC versus UConn, I'm gonna have to go with UFC. Juju Watkins is really a generational type player. Scoring as much points as she has, it's just really groundbreaking. So those are my predictions.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with LSU, not LSU, Iowa. I think Caitlin Clark's
Gonna pull that out. As I've been saying all year, I think this is the year Caitlin gets it done and wins it all. But also, I think UConn pulls it out, as they've always been like one of the best teams in college basketball year in and year out. They're always at their best when it comes to the NCAA tournament. They have a great coach led by a great player in Paige Beckers, who's been a stud ever since she joined, one of the best freshmen there was, and then suffered a couple knee injuries, so we haven't heard about her lately. But since she's been back, again, she is one of the best players in the tournament, and I think UConn's experience with their head coach, I think they're going to be able to prevail there. So I'm going to go with Iowa and UConn.
Joining us after the break to talk about MLB
B will be Alex Miley.
You wouldn't do that. So why do you do this? Distracted driving kills an average of 9 people and injures over 1,000 every day in America. Put down your phone. Lives depend on it. Don't drive intoxicated. Don't drive intoxicated. A sobering message from AAA.
Okay, joining us here to talk MLB is Deshaun Francois.
Hello, everybody. Long time no see.
Yeah, this past weekend was opening weekend for the MLB, and the biggest storyline would probably be the Yankees sweeping the Astros, Astros being one of the best teams in baseball, behind Juan Soto's clutch gene in all 4 games. He came up with huge plays to help him lead to victory. Other teams that got sweeps would be the Pirates, the Tigers, and the Bruins, while the Mets, White Sox, and Marlins all got swept. I'm going to have to ask Deshaun, what is your biggest surprise from this first start of the season?
So just like you talked about it, the Brewers did sadly upset my Mets. I'm a big Mets fan. Very happy with the production that we got from Pete Alonso and Francisco Alvarez. Marte hit a home run as well. I think Brett Beatty did too. But sadly, that would be my most upsetting upset throughout the entirety of opening day and opening week would be the Mets getting swept by the Brewers. My biggest highlight, I would say, would probably be the performance that we've seen from Mookie Betts. How do you think that's been faring off so far for the Dodgers this year, with Mookie Betts leading off for them?
Yeah, Mookie has been absolutely insane this year. He's leading the league in batting average. He's now playing shortstop. He's can play every position on defense, and he plays it at elite level. He's one of the best defenders at shortstop after being an outfielder and a second baseman prior to this. And then that's just the defensive offense. As I said, he's leading the league in home runs, leading the league in batting average. He's just been absolutely insane. But to me, the biggest surprise is going to have to be the Yankees. 3 of their 4 wins were come from behind, which is totally unheard of for this team. Last year, if they were losing in any game, the game was over. They just couldn't come from behind because they were always looking for that home run. Now they've had 5 home runs in 4 games, and they won all 4 games. They're not relying on the home run. They're getting on base. They're getting walks. They're getting singles. They're pitching. Their starting pitching, who everyone thought was going to be terrible, has actually fared very well. And then the only relief pitching in baseball that is yet to allow a run this year, which everyone knew was going to be a strength, but holy crap, it has been absolutely insane. But I'm going to have to bring it back to you. Who do you think are your MVP picks so far to start the year?
Well, MVP, I would have to go with Mookie for sure. Obviously, having so many home runs, he has 4 on the season, 11 RBIs. He's just also leading in hits. He's kind of making that statement so far, so early in the season. But second, I would have to go with a great pitcher that I saw so far would be Corbin Burns. He started off great for the Orioles at the beginning of the year with 11 Ks on opening day. So if you're going to talk about someone that's in the MVP race, I would say those would be the two people starting out for me right now.
All right, yeah, for me, I would have to go with Mookie Betts again, and then I'd have to go with Juan Soto, especially if the Yankees continue playing like this. He's the best player on what so far has arguably been the best team in baseball, as they are 4-0, and he's come up clutch in every game. The first game, he throws a runner out at home in the ninth inning to save the game. The second game, go-ahead walk. The third game, go-ahead home run, and then on Sunday to cap it off, a ninth inning game-winning single. It's just been absolutely insane how well he's played so far. He's getting on base. He's getting hits. He's playing great defense. It doesn't matter. He's doing it all. But I'd have to bring it back. Who would you be your World Series picks?
My World Series pick, going ahead with what we've been saying and just staying with the trend, it would have to be with the Dodgers. I feel like the top of that order, just leading off, you got Mookie, then you got Shohei, you got Freddie Freeman. Those three people, they get on base. You have Max Muncy that can most likely bring them home. Teoscar Hernandez, who's also second in home runs for the season. Sadly, he also is at the top with strikeouts with 12 too. So Teoscar's been having a little bit of a hard time starting out the season, but the Dodgers team is just built so well around Shohei Ohtani, and I think that contract that he signed, also what they did with Will Smith, making sure that they have him longevity. I think that Dodgers team is just building out so well to build like dynasty like stature for them. So I would say those are my World Series leading right now for the Dodgers.
Yeah, the Dodgers have been absolutely incredible. On paper, they look incredible. In person, they've been incredible. Everyone's worried about how they always choke in the playoffs, but this is probably the best team they've had. So I think they come out of the NL, and I think the Yankees will be able to make it out of the AL this year because they actually can play clutch baseball this year, unlike years past. What are your thoughts so far in the season, Richie?
So while we're giving our picks, I do think the way the Yankees swept that series against the Astros was very convincing. Obviously, it's only 4 games in out of 182, so it's really way too early to say. But I think Juan Soto is playing at an MVP level, and I think as good as the Yankees and Dodgers are, I think there's a strong chance to get Juan Soto and MVP Mookie Betts. And I think for the Cy Young, I'll go Spencer Strider in the NL, and I'll go Corbin Burns.
I think Spencer Strider had a great game during opening week as well. I'm a little bit of a betting man myself, so him getting those 8 strikeouts, I believe he had 8 or 7. It was something that was definitely very lucrative to my pocket. So we appreciate you, Spencer Strider.
What are your thoughts on so far, Michael?
I'm not a baseball guy.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
All right, so after commercial, we're going to talk about hockey. Evan's going to be joining me for that segment.
You wouldn't do that. So why do you do this? Distracted driving kills an average of 9 people and injures over 1,000 every day in America. Put down your phone. Lives depend on it. Don't drive intoxicated. Don't drive intoxicated. A sobering message from AAA.
Okay, since we have last left off, the Sabres have
Played 5 games. They've continued their inconsistent play. They started off with a terrible 8-3 loss to the Oilers where they just fell apart in the third. Then they followed up with a nice 4-1 win against the Flames, followed back up by a terrible 6-2 loss to the Senators where UPL had his worst game of the year. But then the next game they went 5-2 behind Tage Thompson having 4 goals, his first hat trick of the year. And then to cap it all off, on Saturday again, they lose 3-0 in a game where they absolutely needed, as all the other teams around them in the wild card race lost. So it would have been a perfect chance to gain some ground. But now they sit back with 7 games left. They're 7 points out of a wild spot. Evan, what are your thoughts so far on the Sabres' recent play?
Yeah, like you mentioned, the Sabres got a lot of help the other night in their win against the Devils was Tage Thompson having 4 goals in that outing. And coming into the game against the Maple Leafs just the other night, there was a lot of, hope and a lot of anticipation maybe that the Sabres could get on a little bit of a roll here nearing the end of the season to make a playoff push. But they came out flat. offensively. They had chances. They had 6 power plays. They went 0 for 6. They did not step up to the plate when they needed to the most. They got good goaltending from UPL that night, but simply Austin Matthews netted his 60th. Samsonov had a shutout, and Tavares scored a goal in his 1100th career NHL game. And the Leafs really just kind of shut down the Sabres' hopes at the playoffs. Like, ultimately, in my opinion, I think after that game, not picking up 2 points in that one, that really just shut down everything with their recent inconsistent play, not being able to string the consistent wins that you needed this late in the season.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with the Sabres. They're just so inconsistent, which as a fan, it just brings so much hope just to get destroyed over and over again. They'll have a really nice win, and then they'll follow it up like they forget how to play hockey. They can't string together. It's been the problem all year. They get a really nice win, really bad loss, and they just can't string together multiple wins over and over again. So even when they do get help, like they did on Saturday with other teams losing, they can't seem to get a win. And the power play, once again, was just awful. Going 0 for 6 in an NHL game is unacceptable. You need it. If you're going to have 6 power plays, you've got to at least get 1. But coming up tomorrow, we're home against the Capitals with UPL expected in that, and Charlie Lindgren expected in that. This is Jeff Skinner's 1000th game. Evan, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so everything about this game, obviously there's still playoff hopes and aspirations on the line for the Buffalo Sabres, but the big takeaway from this game is it's Jeff Skinner's 1000th game. He's in his 6th year as a Buffalo Sabre. He's been one of the more remembering Sabres over his time here in Buffalo, being one of the best 5-on-5 goal scorers in the National Hockey League, not only with his days in Carolina, but with his days in Buffalo. Most goals by a player drafted since 2010. Jeff Skinner's second in the National Hockey League, only behind Austin Matthews. And obviously Austin Matthews drafted in 2016. He is in a league of his own, but he's ahead of guys like Tyler Seguin and Mark Scheifele, Nikita Kucherov, and Mika Zibanejad, who were all drafted within a year or two just after him. So Jeff Skinner going into his 1000th career game, just want to give him a big, not like round of applause, but just congratulations for what he's done in the National Hockey League so far and what we'll continue to do. And hopefully we can get this guy in the playoffs soon. Yeah. You actually have an interesting stat about some players not being in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, the Jeff Skinner is about to be the first player ever to have 1,000 career games and no playoff appearances. And the crazy thing about that is 3 of the top 4 in that stat are all lifelong Sabres. You got Rasmus Missalainen, who might make it this year with the Flyers, at 3rd, and then Zemgus Girgensson at 4th. Or that may be flipped, but those 2 are also in the top 4. And it just goes to show how incompetent the Sabres have been recently, as Jeff Skinner spent a lot of time with the Sabres, can't make the playoffs. Risto spent a lot of time with the Sabres, can't make the playoffs. Girgensson spent his entire career with the Sabres, can't make the playoffs. And it just shows that something needs to change because it's just over and over incompetency. So far, the Sabres, they sit 7 points back with 7 games left. The season looks over. What is your biggest problem so far with the team this year?
I think my biggest problem, I know we have a little different opinion on this, but I think my biggest problem is the fact that you need your players, your big time players, to step up and play big in certain games and just throughout the entire season as a whole. And that has just not been the case this year. The Sabres had 3 guys with point per games last year. They got 0 this year. Your leading point scorers are defenseman. Dahling's great, but you would like to see Thompson being that leading guy in goals and points, but it's not been this year. I think that's a big problem.
Yeah, I have to agree that I think that's a problem, but I don't think that's the biggest problem. I think it's Don Granato. I've been saying it since the beginning of the year. Last year, we had one of the best offenses in the league. We had a high-flying, high-scoring attack with these extremely uber-talented offensive players, but goaltending was terrible last year, so we allowed a lot of goals until the end of the year when Devin Levi took over, played well, and the team went on a run. But then in the offseason, Granato thinks we need to change the scheme completely, make it a slowed down, more defensive approach, and what has it done? It's completely destroyed our offense. We're just not that type of team. We're not a slow. We're up tempo, fast team. And even though we're taking a more defensive approach, our defense has been much better than last year. The difference is our goaltending has been much better. So imagine if we had last year's offense with that scheme, with this year's goaltending, we'd be safely in a playoff spot right now. And I think the fact that he made those changes, and we were supposed to take a step this year, and instead we took a step back, I think he's got to go at the end of the year. But that's all we have for today.
Sorry. And with that, that concludes today's show. Thank you guys for watching, and make sure you guys subscribe to Buffalo State Insider or Buffaloes.